Is a traditional relationship healthier than some of these progressive style relationships that are happening nowadays? Well, I do believe that if I want to point out which progressive ideas I'm talking about, for example, when a woman is taught to become very independent, right? That is a virtue. And it's good for a man to have an independent woman for the times when she needs to be able to take care of herself. However, if she's acting as if she's independent all the time and she's got the ideology or the idea that she doesn't need a man, and she's that kind of independent, like she can do everything herself, and she can lift and fix everything, all that kind of stuff, then a man like myself, I want to be used for what I am good at. And it sounds funny, right? You want to be used. Well, we want to feel like that we're needed, just like women want to be felt like they're needed. And I want to feel like my masculine traits are something that adds to my woman's life. And I do think that because I am more masculine in my traits, like I built my house and my lab, my studio, I work a lot, and I have worked a lot in the past, and that's, I'm more interested in things than people, and I'm not really big on cooking and those kind of things. However, I do think that because I am adding to a person's life, that means, helping the woman help cleaning their house, or fixing things at their house, or doing the man things that are my virtues, and her taking on some of the other things, like doing my laundry or cooking for me. I can do it myself. It's not the point. The whole point is we're adding to each other's lives when we come together, and we shouldn't need anything from another person. We should be very independent in ourselves and have our abilities, because once we're centered, we're not searching for something in another person. We have it in ourselves. And that's where, when we give up some of our responsibilities, like cooking and cleaning, or doing laundry, or doing more of the feminine trait jobs in the traditional relationships, then I have more ability and more time to do those masculine traits. I've been with women that will challenge me constantly for dominance, both like psychologically, or challenge me, and it's like we have to trust each other. And the reason why you're with me, if you're with me, is because you trust in me. And the more that you're challenging me, which is healthy to be challenged, I'm not saying don't challenge me, but the more that you're challenging me for dominance over my area, you're naturally pushing buttons that are not going to be good for the long term, as I'm not going to try to dominate you in that area. And I believe that a lot of what happened through the 80s and 90s and continuing to this day is the pathologization of the masculine. And that has created a lot of feminist women, or masculine women. Because what happens when the ideology of feminism is women are independent, they can do it all themselves, right? And a lot, like, some of the dark sides of it is that they don't need men at all, which is actually the dark masculine trait, which is pathological independence. So the funny thing is when these movements were started by these Marxist people, because feminism is a Marxist movement, it's to trick people in separating the family and dividing the family. That's what that was about. And that's a trick that people have been falling for, still to this day, forever. you know, and I'm not saying there wasn't a time where the feminist movement was needed. However, we should not have called it feminist movement. We should have called it an equality movement in general. But also, we should realize is, when are we seeking equality or when are we seeking vengeance? Because if people are asking for more equality now that men are actually being stepped upon, like, and I'm not talking about the ruling class, because we're living in two different classes. Yes, there is a bunch of dark fathers that run the world, but we can point at those small handful of dark fathers as what they are, instead of casting a net on top of all men, especially masculine men, as pathological. And that's what these movements have done, is it turns us on us, we turn on each other down here on the ground, down this, where we actually speak to each other. It turns our families apart. It divides and conquers us. So I want a traditional family. You know, I want the idea of the Trinity. I want a divine feminine and a divine masculine. And the reason why we can stand in those roles is because we love who we naturally are. And that's what the ancient Trinity is the ability to have that masculine role model and feminine role model, and that negotiation between the mother and the father, that healthy relationship between the mother and the father, so the child can see how to rise up. We're setting examples for our children. And there's times when the feminine needs to be making decisions first. And there's times when the masculine need to. And there's times when we need to be the child. And there's times when we need to be the mother. And there's times when we need to be the father. And that's the whole point of those three positions, is being humble enough to know that. A man just wants to be appreciated. If a woman shows their appreciation for a man, the man will do anything for that woman. As soon as the energy starts to turn rank and the people take each other for granted, start to just point out the bad aspects of each other, then that is going to head in a bad position. And that, unless we can be assertive with each other, then, you know, trouble can arise. And so I want a woman that is humble. I want a woman that wants children. I want a woman that's happy to do her natural role and be who she wants to be. And the reason she can be that safely is because she has a masculine protector. And the reason I can be a masculine protector is because I also have that divine feminine love from the partner. Melanie, we had times where we turned each other into little monsters, and that happens. And we also found out that we were quite different now than we were when we got married. And we have some things that just do not flow together. But both of us, after the end of that relationship, still love each other so much. She's my best friend. We talk all the time. Neither of us carry any resentment towards each other after the 7 years that we spent together. She was happy to have a manly man, as I was happy to have a feminine woman. And I hope that people understand that is what will classically happen if we have enough strong men. Then we will see more classic relationships. But since the 80s and since especially the 90s, when they started killing off all the masculine men, then it became harder for people to find those natural traditional relationships and to find men that were actually the light father rather than the dark father. And I think that what is missing in the world today, especially in liberal areas, especially very neoliberal areas like Nelson, is that there isn't much strong masculine presence. The only strong masculine presence, and there's a few strong men, I'm not saying that all, I don't want anybody to get hurt over this, but what I'm saying is there's a lack of strong masculine presence, and the strong masculine presence I see is mostly dark masculine, and most of that is coming from the females in this community. Anytime that a community can pathologize one of the polarities of the human spirit and the rest of the community has nothing to say about it, you know we have a lack of a strong masculine and healthy masculine presence. How often do you hear the divine masculine? You don't hear men call each other gods. In this area we hear a lot of divine feminine. And a lot of like the native people, there's a native group here that they have one of their leaders, I think her name is Miriam. She's called the matriarch. Well, you know what? Is there a patriarch? Because I know you guys don't even like the word patriarchy, right? But you're okay with using the word matriarch? That's how far, that's the pendulum swinging. Well, there is strong men around. And I guess us strong men and us strong masculine presence, I should use as a better way of looking at it, we're going to make as much noise. We're going to make enough noise for 10 men each, I hope. Anyways, much love.